Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel straight from one of the most amazing locations I've ever photographed at in far north Queensland. I'm in a deep dark rainforest surrounded by amazing birds like spotted catbird, grey-headed robin, pale yellow robin. But the bird I'm really after today is the Victoria's riflebird, one of just 3 birds of paradise that live in Australia. They're really deep, black, dark birds with an amazing iridescent throat. And the best thing, and the thing I really hope I will be able to capture, is that they have this amazing display where they put up their wings and move them around, and if a female comes close they go completely crazy. As you can see behind me, the conditions going to be quite challenging. Not just the light, it's going to be bright and dark at times, but also just the thickness of the rainforest. So I really have to maneuver around to see where's a gap behind a bird, where can I get a more distant background, and most importantly, where can I get a bright background? Because when we're shooting at high ISO, which I will definitely have to do today, usually 12,800 or 25,600 to even get a 200th of a second, we need bright backgrounds. Because if we have a bright background, ISO and the noise shows up a lot less and we get much nicer, much cleaner images. Because it's a deep dark forest, I was planning to use my f4 600mm lens to get the most image quality and have the most light available to me. But because the birds are relatively tame, I will probably have to resort to using the 100 to 500 most of the time, simply because the 600 will be too long. Another challenge with these birds is that they're basically black, some of the darkest black I've ever seen. And if you see the bird just next to you, you can, even with your bare eyes, hardly make out any feather detail unless the bird's like in the bright sunlight. So this is going to be the biggest challenge of this shoot, and I'm also thinking I might use a little bit of fill flash at the lowest setting, manual 1/128th power, and a diffuser on top, because any more power settings will just make it too strong and the birds will look really funny and over flashed. So I'll experiment with the flash a little bit. I just saw a spotted catbird. It's coming closer. It has this crazy call. Hoping I can get some shots. It's coming to get some banana off the deck right next to me. Put up a few branches over there. There it is. So the light's getting actually much better, a lot more sunny, so my backgrounds are getting bright, and I wasn't really feeling the flash, so I took it off for now, but I might use it again a little bit later. But I find it very difficult to find a right angle, kind of like hummingbirds. You need to show that iridescence, but if you see the iridescent feathers, then it's usually some weird hack angle, so I'm still working on getting the best shots there. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab some cable ties, find a nice mossy perch, attach it to the deck, have a more distant background, and hopefully get some more shots up there. So let's do that. Even though the sun's out, I still have to use pretty high ISO because it's still kind of dark. It looks brighter now, but I'm still at like 6400 ISO, 12,800 ISO. And I'm finding with these sun in, sun out conditions now, a little bit of flash is helping me to balance the light. Nice, so this perch setup works quite well. When I'm using the flash, I also try to keep my shutter speed at a maximum of 1/250th of a second, so the flash actually doesn't go in high speed mode. If I let it go in high speed mode, I will miss too many shots. I'm also having it on top of the camera because with the diffuser, it's not a problem and it's much easier than using a tripod or using some sort of flash extender. So for this sort of up close work at very low power, it's just fine to have it on top of the camera. Oh, there's 2 more birds. Look at that, the female just jumped on my camera that I'm filming myself with. Now that was a funny moment, wasn't it? The bird just jumping on my camera and watching what's going on with all the screens and all the lights. There's a male, hopping to one of the display perches. How amazing was that? And this was a great example where a terrible photo can still be a fantastic video clip. I didn't like the background, it was too close to the bird, and also the light was just kind of all over the place. But with the video in log format, I could expose very well, have a lot of dynamic range, expose the bird well, expose the background well enough, and actually get a really cool clip of the bird. So in this case, always switching between photo and video is really advantageous. And I must say, this display of these birds is definitely shown the best in video format. You can get some nice photos, hopefully later on, but you don't really capture all the action. This again on a more distant perch. Oh wow, I didn't see that perch before. Problem now, the 100 to 500. Just a bit too far away. Sitting on this amazing perch, even with the video, it's kind of struggling to grab onto the head. It's quite small in the frame, and the photos are just not as sharp. It's just a bit too far away. So I love that scene there. I think what I have to do, I have to put this down, hope the bird stays or comes back, and I'm going to grab my 600 from the car because I'm not getting the shot I want with the 100 to 500. I got the f4 600mm lens, another f5, and set that up now. And I only have this camera now pointing at that distant perch. I've already done some test shots and it looks much better. It looks much sharper. I'm getting more light and a more out of focus background. Even with the 600mm lens, it's still kind of challenging conditions. Bit sunny, bit darker. The background is quite bright, the bird's still quite dark, so I need to overexpose a lot but not blow out the background. So I'm still at high ISO, 12,800, just a 3/20th or 2/50th of a second. So I have to be very slow, very steady when I'm taking photos because I don't want to blur the action. There it comes back. Look at that. And off he goes. How good was that? I'm so glad I actually ran back to the car, got the camera, got the 600mm lens because I'm just getting much better quality images with much smoother backgrounds. And zooming into this, that looks very good. There's another one. Doesn't get much better than this, guys, does it? An amazing kind of rare bird doing an amazing display action, a beautiful perch on a beautiful day in the rainforest here. So you can see in the latest example, while I love the 100 to 500, it definitely has its limitations at times as well, simply because it can't keep up in certain conditions. And this f4 600mm lens just does so much better. In this scenario, just then with a more distant perch and the background close to the perch, this 600mm lens still delivers a beautiful out of focus background at f4, whereas with the 100 to 500, it just didn't look the same. It struggles to dissolve the backgrounds. At f7.1, when it's really low light, does become a problem at times. When I'm photographing the birds up close, like headshots or some other portraits, it works really well. It's not a problem at all. But at more distance, the 600mm definitely outperforms it by a large margin. I get much more detailed shots with more sharpness and just an overall better look. So while I love having this, I also wouldn't want to miss the 600 for this amazing situation like we just saw with the rifle bird displaying on this amazing perch. It must be my lucky day today because look at the image that I just got. I moved around, set up at the vine perch, at really nice twisty perch, hoping I get some images. A male landed on it. I thought, okay, that looks good. But then a female landed on the perch as well. And the moment the female landed, the male just started displaying for a couple seconds. And I got this image. I'm so stoked. There's another one. Oh, that one didn't do anything, but I feel like I'm getting greedy anyways. This is definitely one of those days that we all live for, isn't it? I've only been here a couple of hours, but I've already nailed all the birds I wanted, get some amazing images, some great poses, so I'm more than happy, and it's definitely one of the best days in my bird photography career. Man, it just doesn't stop. I think what's important to keep in mind as well when you're shooting in these difficult conditions is that you need good editing technique and good understanding of the editing process to get an image from this flat RAW file to this amazing looking final image. And especially with these dark birds, bright backgrounds, high ISO situations, you have to have a good workflow. I use DXO Pure RAW to get rid of the noise. Then I use my PROSETS to get a great starting point, get great colors, and tweak it a little bit from there. And then I open up the file in Photoshop where I do all the things that are really necessary to make the image pop. For instance, with these dark birds, I will work individually on some areas on the bird, and I will also individually work on the background. Maybe I remove a branch, or maybe I darken it a bit or lighten it a bit. So it's important that I make different selections, different masks, and different curves to balance out the image and get me the image that I really want in the end. And especially with the images that are not flashed, I have to lighten the bird a little bit. So separating the bird and the background with good selections is crucial in the editing process for these kind of images. And this is exactly what I teach you in my masterclass. So if you want to learn all about image editing and editing in difficult situations, make sure to check out my ProSets and masterclass down there in the description where I teach you all that. Another thing I found very difficult when it comes to rainforest photography is the camera struggling with the focusing. This R5 does pretty well, but at times when it gets darker or when there's a bright background and a dark bird, it really struggles to latch onto the bird. Even if I just want to pre-focus on the perch, the eye tracking does the best for me, and spot autofocus is basically useless. It will not really find anything. And while the R5 is good, the R3 that I'm currently filming myself with is actually the best when it comes to rainforest photography. The R3 is lightning fast, and even in conditions where the R5 mightily struggles, it still finds the bird fast and latches onto the eye super fast. So in these conditions, an R3 is definitely preferable, but I do prefer the higher megapixels for the R5, especially where I'm trying to do headshots and I know I will need to crop a little bit for composition later on. The light is becoming a real challenge now. You can probably see it in my face, you can see it behind me there. It just really mottled. The sunlight is pretty strong now. It's kind of the middle of the day. So those beautiful perches, we just got those awesome photos and videos and like full sunlight now, or they're still in the shade, one of them, but it's impossible to balance the exposure. Like the bird's still dark, but then the background is completely blown out if I want to get any sort of detail in the birds. I'm just taking a break. I'm still walking around with the 100 to 500, seeing if I can get some perched birds that are like on the rail, for instance, just go for headshot. So if you're flexible in the field, use the right lens at the right time. For instance, me using the 100 to 500mm first, but then switching to the f4 600mm lens, being flexible with where you're standing, and also keep an eye on your settings. Using high ISO and a high enough shutter speed, you're halfway there to getting fantastic rainforest images. And if you then know good editing technique and look for nice and bright backgrounds in the field, you will get some really nice images with not too much noise in them. And sometimes you might even want to consider the use of flash. Personally, I try to avoid it whenever I can, but in certain situations it will definitely help you a lot. So with all these steps, I'm hopeful that you're now equipped to take some amazing rainforest images yourself. And look at this now. Now it suddenly got really dark, but let's not get distracted by that. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up for it. Please let me know all your thoughts about rainforest photography in the comments. Have you done it? Have you struggled with it? Let me know. And subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye guys.